Jim Crockett Jr passed away. It was announced on the NWA Instagram page as they posted, "The National Wrestling Alliance (NWA) is saddened to learn that Jim Crockett Jr has passed away at the age of 76. A three-time president of National Wrestling Alliance, and Crockett was a titan in the professional wrestling industry who introduced countless legends of the sport to the world. National Wrestling Alliance extend their deepest sympathies to his family and friends and fans. His early life. Born to Jim Crockett and Elizabeth Crockett in Charlotte, Jim Jr graduated from Myers Park High School in Charlotte, North Carolina in 1960. He and his younger siblings, David and Jackie and Francis, were largely uninvolved in the professional wrestling until their father's death in 1973. The elder Crockett had been a promoter of wrestling and other forms of entertainment since 1931, with JCP joining the NWA in 1950. Taking over from Jim Crockett Promotions. Although Jim Crockett Sr had decided his son-in-law, John Ringley, would run JCP, Jim Jr reluctantly took over ownership of the company that same year. Crockett brought into wrestling George Scott as head booker, and he signed wrestlers from across the country, from veterans such as Woohoo McDonald to younger wrestlers like Ric Flair. NWA President first term. In 1980, Crockett was elected to his first term as NWA President, which ended in 1982. He had a working relationship with Maple Leaf Wrestling, based out of Toronto and owned by Frank Turney until Turney's death in 1983. Turney's nephew, Jack Turney, switched Maple Leaf Wrestling's working agreement to Vince McMahon's World Wrestling Federation. Crockett then formed a short-lived relationship with Verne Gagne and his American Wrestling Association to form Pro Wrestling USA. Second term. Crockett was elected to a second term as NWA President in 1985. He brought Vince McMahon's Saturday Night TV time slot on superstation WTBS, and his business began to flourish. During that year, he organized the first annual Jim Crockett Sr Memorial Cup, in which wrestlers from 8 NWA regional territories participated in a one-day long tag team tournament at the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans. The Road Warriors defeated Ron Garvin and Magnum TA after 7.5 hours to win the tournament, though Crockett had organized the tournament as a tribute to his father. Several rival promoters suspected he was using the event to further his own plans for expanding his promotion nationally. Their suspicions increased as Crockett began holding wrestling events in Memphis and Florida without contacting the local NWA promoters. He eventually purchased promotions based in Oklahoma and Kansas City and the Mid-South Territory, and began airing his own television wrestling events, which were syndicated across the United States. Third term. Crockett was elected to a third term as NWA president in 1987. The same year he bought out Championship Wrestling from Florida and Universal Wrestling Federation, those acquiring such talent as wrestlers Sting and commentator Jim Ross, though initially planning to keep the UWF and NWA as separate promotions in order to promote an annual interpromotional event similar to the Super Bowl. Crockett instead moved the old UWF headquarters from Tulsa and Oklahoma to Dallas, Texas, and incorporated its stars into its own promotion. Crockett promoted his company JCP as the NWA since he owned 6 NWA territories and was the NWA president, much to the confusion of the fans. Crockett sells his promotion to Ted Turner. By November 1988, Crockett was near bankrupt, and though promoter Jim Barnett sold his company to Ted Turner, who renamed it World Championship Wrestling, Crockett remained NWA president until 1991. Short-lived attempts at returning to wrestling. Crockett attempted a return to wrestling with a wrestling internet broadcast network in 1994 called the World Wrestling Network. It was short-lived, and it left the sport for good in 1995. Crockett also brought the NWA back to the Dallas Sportatorium for an equally brief tenure during his time. Post-wrestling career. After his retirement from professional wrestling promoting, Crockett worked as a Texas realtor and mortgage loan organizer. And on February the 28th, 2021, Dave Metzler reported that Crockett was in grave condition. He died 3 days later due to complications of the liver and kidney failure. He was only 76, but he will be surely missed.